Welcome to Live, Love, Engage, the podcast where we share practical advice from a spiritual perspective on how to create a life and business with more impact, influence, and income. I am your host, Gloria Grace Rand, the insightful copywriter and founder of the L.O.V.E. Method. My mission is to help you stop doubting yourself so you can live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically. Namaste and welcome. Welcome to a live edition of Live, Love, Engage. We are coming to you live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I am delighted to have you here today. And also welcome to those of you who are listening to this podcast on the recording on your favorite podcast platform. I'm glad to have you here as well. And we are going to be talking with a quite an accomplished woman who is a passionate healer, but I'm going to tell you more about her in a minute. So first, though, I want to bring in and welcome to Live, Love, Engage, Teresa Bruni. Welcome.
Thank you, Gloria. It's wonderful to be here with you and with your audience.
Well, we are glad to have you, and I am really excited to talk about how we're going to be healing from the inside out. That's our topic today. But let me tell you, for those of you who are watching and listening, why Teresa is a bit of not just a bit, she's an authority on the subject. She is a genuinely passionate healer and spiritual warrior who assists individuals in breaking through obstacles that prevent them from living life to the fullest. And she believes that everyone deserves healing, physical, emotional, spiritual. And when that happens, that is really what can result in an abundant and fulfilled life. And she's also a certified coach and energy leadership index master practitioner, which is a mouthful. I may to ask you about that later. And she's also an international best-selling author of the Resilience Journal, Transcending Turbulent Times Through Journaling, and which it looks like you published that during the pandemic, I think, right? So
yes.
We've certainly been going through some turbulent times of late, and it doesn't seem to be ending as we are recording this in the middle of February. World events are going on, and I'm trying not to pay attention to. So I'm just going to do that. So I wanted to start off, as I usually do with our podcast, in asking our guests to tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get involved in being this healer? And so what did that journey look like?
So with most coaches and heart-centered entrepreneurs and even individuals like you who seek to inspire and empower the world, most of us have our own story. And so my story goes back to a struggle that I had with a chronic health condition that had me out on full disability for 9 years. And when medical science failed to get me well, I realized that I had to take matters into my own hands. And it was through turning within that I was able to recover.
That's awesome. Can you where am I doing this? There we go. I'm like forgetting how to use StreamYard all of a sudden here. It's like, how do I get myself back in there? Well, can you elaborate a little bit more about that? So you're having this health challenge. So what did you do? Did you discover a book, or did you just intuitively figure this out? Just give us. We want to know more.
So just backing up, just to give people the background story, I had a very traumatic childhood. And consequently, I ended up in an abusive marriage. And it was when I was coming out of that marriage and trying to establish myself on my own 2 feet that I became ill. Like most individuals, I expected medical science to be able to get me well, and I trusted them. Luckily for me, I had never been seriously ill before. So you go to the doctor, they give you an antibiotic, and in 2 weeks you're better, right? That's how it usually works. As I mentioned previously, I gave them 7 years of my life to try to get me well, and that wasn't working. It's also really important for me to mention that this was back in the late 80s, so we didn't have the internet yet. I know that's hard to imagine, but it is true. We didn't have the internet yet. So I spent a lot of time in bookstores and in the library. Those were the good old days when you could go to Barnes and Noble and grab 4 books off the shelf and go sit in the coffee shop and just read and not have to buy the books. But I also turned within, and what happened, Gloria, was I started to discover within me all of these techniques to help me to recover my health. And so I'll give you just a couple of examples. One day I was brushing my teeth. It was in the morning, and I was brushing my teeth, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I realized that I didn't recognize the person that I was seeing in the mirror. So I hopped up on the bathroom counter, and I looked deeply into my own eyes, and I started to have a conversation with myself. This turned out to be really, really powerful work, and it was incredibly healing. Fast forwarding, I had been recovered and back to work, and my cousin introduced me to Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. And in that book, she talks about mirror work. So I'm reading this thing about mirror work, and I'm going, wait a minute, I discovered that because, I had not learned it out of a book. It's just that I was in front of the mirror one day, and I realized that I didn't recognize myself. And so what that taught me was that we have this innate ability to heal. All of us have it. And there were other things like visualizations that I discovered. Let me visualize what my life will be like when I'm well. I had all types of healing visualizations and meditations. And so for me to know that intuitively and then read about it years later in a book, that's when I put 2 and 2 together, and I realized that we all have within us what we need to get well.
Why do you think it is that so many of us don't realize that we do have this power within?
To me, it's quite simple. Medical science has taken away our power. And, I'm not going to say that was intentional. I think it's a two-sided story. So, for example, when my mom was a little girl, we didn't have antibiotics. We've only had antibiotics a little over 100 years. So back then, people died from simple things like pneumonia. And then all of a sudden, here comes this miracle pill. And so we've become, in Western medicine, we've become a society who that we want the quick fix, and we don't want to do the internal work. We want the quick fix. And I've had conversations with doctors who tell me, if I don't hand my patients a pill, they get angry. So, it's a double-edged sword. Medical science has created a society where we are dependent upon them, but we have fed into that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think that one of the reasons that it is, we're really good at triage. I think medicine is really good at triage as well. But yeah, it's so important to be able to realize that the mind is a really powerful tool as well. And I do think that we're starting to make that shift, because it seems like I'm hearing a lot more about quantum physics and quantum mechanics, and people are starting to really, even doctors as well, I think, are starting to realize that maybe taking a page out of Eastern medicine's book, which has been around for thousands of years, and they've spent more time on the connection of the mind and the body and how they work. Um, but I know one of the things you also focus on is emotions, right? So
Mhm.
how do our emotions fit into this equation as well with our with being able to heal ourselves?
So in my practice, my philosophy is that the body is the messenger. And so anytime we are struggling with any type of emotional issue, it's going to show up, if we don't manage it, it's going to show up as some sort of physical condition. And if we continue to ignore those messages, it will, like in my case, it will become a full-blown chronic illness, which could be devastating to your life. So if you're struggling with your health, it's a great time to stop and take a good look at your life and start to figure out where you're not happy. Um, Life is stressful, and too many people are in jobs that they don't like. Too many people are in relationships that aren't fulfilling. And so, if you continue to perpetuate that, it will show up somewhere in your body. And the body, I have a 400-page diagnostic book that that when a client comes to me and says I have shoulder pain or digestive issues or whatever the case may be, we go right to the book and we
Mm.
start from there.
Yeah, I have learned this as well because I've been I did have an injury, I would say initially, in that when I was a teenager, we lived in Michigan, and so we did not have central air in those days, so we had the lovely window air conditioners, and we had a really big, heavy one, and my dad had moved out, my parents were having marital issues, so my mom and I had to take this air conditioner out and put in the storm windows for the winter, and lifting that thing, threw something out of my back. And so I went to the chiropractor because conventional just pain pills wasn't fixing it. Chiropractor worked, that helped. But over the years, I've had occasions where it has flared up and seemingly out of the blue for no reason. And I've come to now see that there is a reason that because it's not an injury anymore. Now it is something that's going on in my life. For instance, after my sister passed, I was trouble with my back hurting for quite a while after that. And so I've learned that it really is important to pay attention to your body because it's trying to help you and giving you some signals to say, as you say, to look at your life and see what's going on.
Exactly. Exactly. So, are you comfortable if we talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
So your back is all about support,
Mm.
right? Without
Yeah.
without our backs, we wouldn't be able to stand up straight. And I just happened to catch that you said your father had left.
Mhm.
So you lost a major support person in your life. Now, some may say, well, but it was the air conditioner. Well, God or the universe or whatever, however you refer to that higher power, they will
Mhm.
orchestrate a way to get that message through to you.
Mm.
And so oftentimes we will have an accident or some type of injury that
Mhm.
will try to draw us to the
Ooh.
message.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting like, 'cause I also broke an ankle once too when my kids were young, and I know that was I do think that was another way of I was doing a lot, I was working full time, raising 2 kids, and I think it was like, I probably didn't felt I was handling things, but I think inside my body was like, "You need to stop. You need a break," literally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting. One of the things I noticed, on your bio and this is something I'm familiar with, but I know that not necessarily other people are, is that you're a certified heart math practitioner. And I
Mhm.
wondered if you could talk a little bit about what that is and why you decided to become one.
Well, heart math has been around for quite a while, and what what the studies that they have done, we now know that the heart sends more signals to the brain than vice versa. Over the past, again, I'm just going to say 100 years, we've been taught that the brain controls everything. And we're now learning that that is not true. So the heart math research, again, indicates that the heart sends more signals to the brain than in the other direction. So when we can tap in and do some heart-centered breathing, we can discover all kinds of answers that we might be searching for, whether it be related to relationships or careers or health, questions about our health. The heart is incredibly intelligent. So with heart math, as a certified practitioner, there are several different types of heart math practices that we can do. But since the pandemic, Heart Math has put a free course out there. So for anyone who is interested, they can go out to Heart Math and look for that free course, and you can start to learn how to do heart-centered breathing, which is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly calming, and it also has a healing effect as well.
Yeah, I was on. They had, I think, an event last year. I think like one of these big webinars and things, a training about it, and I took it, and it was very fascinating. And I know even when I was writing my own book, I was doing some research about about the heart and the brain and how they're connected. And and I love how you think about it. It's like there are so many expressions even that we use. Like the heart always knows. Isn't that something that the brain's supposed to do? And yet we say the heart knows or the heart wants what the heart wants, and there's a lot about it. So I think it is really important for us to tune in and listen to our heart and our gut as well, uh, because it's not just up here. There's a whole holistic sense to this. Uh, what gets you really excited about the work that you're doing with clients?
When I have a client who experiences a breakthrough and they have that aha moment, like you had a moment ago when you said, "Oh, I'm getting chills." Uh, that is what excites me. My entire goal in life is to help to enlighten people and re-educate them to how powerful they truly are, because when we can tap into that power and when we can reclaim our power, we become, we just make this world a better place. And that's what we're all looking to do. Right now we have a lot of division in our country and also the world. And at the end of the day, when we all stop to realize that we all want the same things, we all want good health, and we all want freedom, and we all want peace. And when you can tap into that and send that energy out into the world, it has a compounding effect.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is a good way to go about our daily life, frankly.
Mhm.
Another thing I like to ask people, and I don't do this all the time, and I'm endeavoring to be more consistent. Oh, there we go. Our internet's being a little wonky, but it's
Yeah.
okay. We're back. What do you wish that you had known when you started out on this adventure we call life?
Wow. I wish my guardian angel had whispered in my ear, "You've got an incredible journey that you're embarking on, and I'm going to be here with you, and just hold on tight, because it's going to be a fast and furious ride, and it's going to be scary at some points. But we're going to get through this. And when we come out on the other side, you're going to be a completely different person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think sometimes they do whisper that, but we don't hear it.
exactly. Do we
Or
hear it?
or we forget it, or frankly, we forget it because
Yeah.
we get so bombarded with everything else.
I agree. My journey has it wasn't easy, but I'm not the only one. Most most people have a story, right?
Mhm.
But it has created the person that I am today.
Yeah,
And I like that person, and that's what I want for other people. I want them to really like themselves.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the certainly one of the lessons I have learned, and I try to teach my clients as well, is the importance of not beating yourself up over things that happened in the past, maybe mistakes that you might have made, but to really do treat them as learning opportunities. And as you said, you are who you are today because of all of these challenges. And I believe it's what helps you to be a better coach and to be a better healer, to be able to serve your clients because of all of those things that you have gone through. Would you agree to that? Or
I agree. Plus the knowledge that I have gained along the way, and so one, very typical response. And I just had this conversation with a client yesterday. When something doesn't go the way we think it should go, we have this innate nature to blame ourselves. What did I do wrong? What were the signals that I missed? And oftentimes it has nothing to do with us and everything to do with the other person. And so we have that, we just have that innate trait within us, and those are habits that we can change. We need to learn new ways to live.
mm, yeah, good lesson for everyone listening out there to understand that. One of the other things I like to ask our guests is, what are you curious about right now?
Well, I'm curious to see where we're headed, because
Mm,
as you said earlier on, when you talked about my book, The Resilience Journal, um, even though it appears as though we're coming out of the pandemic, hopefully we are. It seems like the world has still turned itself on its head, and so um, you know, since I was a teen, I've enjoyed astrology and numerology, but I don't follow it. I don't read my horoscope every day. Um, However, there's a lot of talk right now about planetary alignments, and even one of my favorite authors, Greg Braden, if you're familiar with him,
mm,
he talks about solar flares that cause conflict. When there are certain types of solar flares, there's more conflict in the world. um,
mm,
I truly believe that we are currently in a good versus evil type of war, and I also believe that good is going to win. So I'm curious to see how all of this pans out, and you know, I'm glad I'm here to see this, I think.
I know what you mean.
Some days I'm like, wow, this is such an exciting time in the world. And other days it's like, wow, this is really challenging.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that, and I do think that, as you say, it is an exciting time, and it's a challenging time, and I love that we have opportunities, actually the technology that we have today that even though some people don't like it. But the fact that we're able to have a conversation, not only a conversation on the phone, I'm actually seeing you and you are in another part of the country. I've had guests from another part of the world. And to be able to have conversations like these, I think is so wonderful. And that we do have opportunities to connect with so many other people and to learn that there are other ways of thinking, and to learn that we are, despite all of our differences, we are also a lot alike
We
in
are.
many more ways than we are different. We just let some of these outside things disrupt that, I guess. So, with all that you've been talking about so far today, what impact would you like to have on planet Earth during your lifetime?
The number one impact that I would like to have is to empower other people. And you gave me the perfect segue by talking about technology. So, Princeton University runs a global consciousness project, and HeartMath is now involved with that global consciousness project. And you can Google that and find out more information. But what they have discovered is when we humans express emotion, such as during the 9/11 attacks and when Princess Diana, when her death was announced, they can actually measure the emotion that comes off of this planet. Technology can physically measure that emotion. And so if there's anyone listening who thinks that they don't have an effect on our future, I'm here to tell you, you do. You are an incredibly powerful being. And it's important to keep that energy up and find ways to do that. And again, there are a lot of resources on the internet and also on my website. So don't discount yourself. You are an incredibly powerful being, and you're playing a very important role on this planet.
Awesome. I love how we're trading segues today. So this is perfect. So you mentioned your website, and I was going to ask if someone does want to learn more about you, what is the best place for them to be able to do that?
Yeah, so that would be my website, which is my name, teresabruni.com. And again, there's just a ton of information. I've been told, that my website is just overflowing with information. And there are lots of free resources. And then anyone who would like to contact me, just use the contact me form. And I love hearing from people. So that would be the best way, would be my website.
All right. And for those of you who are listening on the recording of this, you will find all of that information in the show notes for this episode. And you can go to liveloveengagepodcast.com, where you'll be able to upload it, as well as all of our past episodes as well. And I meant to mention this earlier today, but I'm going to just throw it in right now as well, is that if you have been enjoying this conversation that we've been having, please feel free to share it. So, tell your friends about it, and let people know someone who needs some help about that, because I noticed we did have a comment from someone on Facebook who said, wow, thanks for this self-blaming. I'm an expert, LOL. Aren't we all? Yes, I know. Yes, and I still,
Yeah, we're good at that.
yeah, and we can get better. And we are getting better, or at least I can say I am getting better at it, because I do catch myself now a lot quicker than I used to. And I can say, oh, wait a minute. No, 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 no. Let's not go down that road. I did want to touch on, though, what you said again, though, about the importance of realizing that we do have control over our emotions. We can focus on peace and things like that to be able to have an effect on the world. I guess before we end today, is there anything else that I haven't asked you about maybe related to that in particular or anything else that you think would be useful for our audience to know today.
Yes, thank you for because I would like this final opportunity to inspire just a little bit more. So, as individuals, we are taught how to live our lives, and those who influence us, our parents, our teachers, clergy, um, relatives, most of them have our best interest at heart, but they teach us how to live based on their experience. And so, maybe your mom always blamed herself, um, or you had a sister or a brother who tended to blame themselves. And so that might be where you picked up this learned behavior. You can unlearn that behavior and learn a new behavior. It just takes practice. And I encourage people to be patient with themselves. The first step is to acknowledge this is a behavior I would like to change. And just like quitting any bad habit, it takes time, it takes patience. So treat yourself like you would treat your very best friend and make these positive changes in your life, and you will be a much happier person.
Oh, I love that. In fact, I was thinking about that the other day, that if we did just treat ourselves the way we treat our best friend or our loved one or significant other, that would clear up a lot of stuff in our lives, a lot of problems, a lot of pain, whether it is mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, uh, to be able to do that, to really practice loving ourselves. And so I appreciate you reminding people to do that today. I think that's a really good message. So thank you so
Yes,
much.
yes, because that's where illness starts.
Mm.
Okay. Because that lack of self esteem and that constant beating up on yourself and the constant wishing you had done things differently in the past and the constant worry about the future, all of that creates stress in your life, and stress results in chronic health conditions.
Absolutely. Ah, this has been wonderful. I'm so glad that we were able to have you on today and for you to be able to share information and to share some tips to remind people that actually can heal from the inside out. So I appreciate that. And again, it's teresabruni.com is her website. And you'll find a wealth of information there. I know because I've been checking you out as well. And so there's lots of good information there to help people out. So I appreciate you so much for being here today. And I look forward to connecting with you.
It was an honor. Thank you so much for having me, Gloria.
All right, thank you. And I want to also thank all of you who've been watching and listening. So I really do appreciate all of you. And as I mentioned earlier today, if you like what you're hearing, please tell a friend. That's the best thing you could do, is tell a friend. I would really appreciate that. So that's going to do it for this edition of Live, Love, Engage. And as always, I close the show by, I was going to say wishing you, urging you, encouraging you. That's the word I want. I encourage you to go out today and every day and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.